Hello and welcome to Highly Recommend. My name is Hannah. Today I have the pleasure of telling you about my favorite book series written by my favorite author of all time, and I might get a little bit emotional because I just care about them so much. So, let's do it! This series that I have to tell you about is the Tiffany Aching Adventures, written by Terry Pratchett. It starts off, this is my double copy of the first two. It is The Wee Free Men and A Hatful of Sky. Those are the first two in the series, and there are 5 total, so I have all 5 of them here with me right now. I have a hard time with doing book talk sometimes because I want to represent them well and make you want to read them, but I also don't want to give away too much because I want you to read them because I love them, so read them. But I want to tell you about it, so it's a weird balance. I'm trying to find it. So this series is about Tiffany Aching, obviously. She's the title of the thing. Anyway, and Tiffany Aching is a witch. So it starts off when Tiffany is, I think, 9 years old, and she is not your typical 9-year-old, especially in where she is living right now. It's set in Discworld, which is where most of Terry Pratchett's books are set. And it's this big universe, a big world that is very ridiculous and mirrors our world in a very lovingly satirical way, and I enjoy it very, very much. But Tiffany, she lives in a small village, and she kind of knows that there are more. She is a very smart young girl, and she meets Miss Tick. As they are talking, Tiffany says, "You really are a witch?" "Oh, please," said Miss Tick. Yes, I am a witch. I have a talking animal, a tendency to correct other people's pronunciation. It's pun, by the way, not pune. And a fascination for poking my nose into other people's affairs. And yes, I have a pointy hat. So I am a witch. And I just love that. That's a lot of what being a witch is in the Terry Pratchett universe, is thinking and being headstrong and poking your nose in other people's business and trying to care for people as much as you can. And I just love it very, very much. The way that the magic is talked about is very down to earth. There is magic in this series a lot of times, but a lot of it just comes from being smart and making smart decisions and knowing people and being okay with people being people. I really enjoy that. And my quote that I have on the wall today is, "It's still magic, even if you know how it's done," which I love that quote so much because I have always just wanted to find something magical in the world. I am so disappointed that I am not an actual witch. I just wanted to go to Hogwarts so badly, and I would just walk around in the woods by myself hoping that I would stumble upon something magical, and I never did. But through Terry Pratchett realizing that the world is magical, even if you know how it works, there is still magic there. You just have to find it. So this series follows Tiffany Aching as she grows as a witch. I think the last one she's 18. It starts off when she's 9, so it does kind of skip through some of her ages. But I loved them so very much. Even as an adult, I started reading them when I was, I think, probably 18 or 19, and I even then wanted to be Tiffany Aching. When Tiffany was 9 years old, I wanted to be her when I grew up. So this last one in the series, I do have to talk about this. So this last one is the last book that Terry Pratchett ever wrote before he died. He wrote, I think that there are around 40 books in the Discworld series, and he wrote more things besides the Discworld series. And I have read all of them, and I have loved all of them, and Terry Pratchett was a huge part of me sort of forming my thoughts on the world. And so this was his last book. It was published 2 years ago now, and I've only been able to read it once because it destroyed me. I cried so hard about this book. And I cannot get myself to read it again. I do need to read it again, but it's just very difficult to get yourself to read something that made you cry so much and feel so many feels, just all of the feelings. And it says in the book jacket, the final Discworld novel, and just that is like, no, I don't want it to be the last one. So yeah, I cried a lot. But it was very, very good. It's obvious that Terry did not have enough time with this book. As he would take with his others. It is a lot shorter than all the rest of them because he didn't have enough time to finish it. So it has a very solid beginning, very solid middle, very solid ending, but the rest of it, he just wasn't able to flesh out like he would with the rest of them. regardless, I highly recommend this series. I can talk about this series all day. Whenever I find someone that has read these books, I hold on to them and I talk to them about it obsessively. And I'm sure that they get a little bit annoyed with that. But I just really love when I can talk to someone about these books. So the other ones, The Winter Smith follows Tiffany trying to write a mistake. She made a huge mistake and she is trying to make it right. And so that's also really cool to see that your character that you love is very flawed, but in those flaws she fights through to make it better. Very cool. And these little creatures here, these are the We Free Men, as the first one is titled after them. These are Knack-Mack Feagles, and they are kind of like Scottish inspired beings. And they're these 6-inch tall, blue, sometimes very hard to understand, and hilarious. I love them so much. I wish I had Knack-Mack Feagles for friends. But they do help Tiffany a lot, and they care for her a lot, and that's just, it's so sweet. There are just so many things about it that are just kind and sweet, but not skating around the difficult parts of life. That's how Terry Pratchett would write, that the difficult parts he found ways to make better. And then I Shall Wear Midnight, in this one Tiffany does kind of find a love interest, which just like, oh my gosh, I did tear up at the end of this one because of how sweet it was, and it was great. I love them and I want Tiffany to be my friend. And I love that her name is Tiffany too. Such a normal, boring name. And she has normal, boring brown hair and normal, boring brown eyes, and she is still this powerful witch. And I like that a lot. That you don't have to look special to be special. So there are two main witches that are Tiffany's kind of mentors as she's learning how to become a witch. Granny Weatherwax, well, Mistress Weatherwax at first, and Tiffany graduates to be able to call her Granny later as she becomes a better witch, and then Nanny Ogg. And Nanny Ogg is just amazing. She very irreverent, drinks all the time, sings these ridiculous songs that are always pretty much about sex. And makes some really, really great jokes, and she's hilarious. And then Granny Weatherwax is very stern and headstrong and very much her own person. I think that there's a quote in there about her never being lost because she knows where she is. It's just the rest of the world that doesn't know where she should be. It's not her fault, it's the rest of the world's fault. And I love that attitude. I think it's really fun. These great characters help Tiffany along on these adventures, and they're just so funny. Laugh out loud funny, and then really deeply thoughtful too. So you kind of get everything that you need out of them. Yeah, just really, really love them. Obviously. You can pretty much just open the book and there will be something funny in there. So in this one, Tiffany is going through this 4-dimensional space where the magic is creating very odd things to happen. So a chicken half jumped, half lapped, and half tumbled onto the wreck of the shambles and crowed, "Cock-a-doodle crivens!" Then the chickens exploded, and they exploded into Feagles. On the whole, there wasn't a great deal of difference between the chickens and the Feagles, since both run around in circles making a noise. An important distinction, however, is that chickens are seldom armed. The Feagles, on the other hand, are armed all the time, and once they had shaken off the last of their feathers, they fell to fighting one another out of embarrassment, and for something to do. I love that. I love the Feagles so much. They're hilarious. There's just so much good in this series, and then also in everything else that Terry Pratchett ever wrote. I always recommend them to people that don't have things to read. I have a friend that I I lent him one of my copies like 4 years ago, and he's finally reading them, and now he's reading like all of this series, and I'm like, yes, another one. Yes, I have converted you. Anyway, super duper highly recommend this series. So I'll tell you the order. The beginning is The We Free Men, and then the second one is Hatful of Sky, and I don't actually have that one with me, other than this combined copy. And then Winter Smith is the third one. I Shall Wear Midnight is the fourth one. And then The Shepherd's Crown is the last one. And the most devastating book I think I've ever read, so be prepared for that. I don't know if someone who's coming into this series new would feel as many feels as I felt, but I felt a lot of feels, so. Thank you so much for watching. Highly recommend. If you have read this series, please comment below and tell me about it, because I just want to have friends that have read this series, because I want to talk about it forever and ever and ever. So comment below your favorite Terry Pratchett book if you have read them, or just your favorite book in general. I'm always looking for new things to read, so let me know what you have read, and I will maybe read it. Probably not, but I will try. Thanks for watching. Bye!